Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Afi, and I'll be your host and moderator today. This afternoon, what we're going to do today is have a conversation. So just a little bit about me. I am one of the member services representatives. I'm also the pledge volunteer coordinator here at Maryland Public Television. So what are we doing today? Today's kickoff is for our event, National Endowments for the Big Arts Read program, in celebration of Lab Girl by Hope Jahren, an arts endowment initiative in partnership with the Arts Midwest. The NEA Big Read broadens our understanding of our world, our communities, and over ourselves through the joy of sharing a good book. Maryland Public Television is thrilled to be one of the 84 organizations selected nationwide to receive this grant, starting today and continuing through April 21st. I'm forgetting what year it is, through April 2021. MPT will be celebrating Lab Girl by Hope Jahren with a full calendar of events. So excited. All right, so let's talk about Hope. Hope is an award-winning geoscientist, and Lab Girl recounts her story of being a respected scientist, including setbacks, triumphs, and friendships along the way. One of the major themes in her book is the struggle she faced as a woman in science. According to the American Association of University of Women, women make up only 28% of the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and math, commonly referred to as STEM. In looking at ways MPT could celebrate Lab Girl, we figured that we could do better than just hearing from we could do great things and hear from women working in the STEM field here at our network. So just a little bit of overlay about how this operation is going to go today. Soon we'll be talking with the trio of wonderful women who work at Maryland Public Television about their experiences and their career paths. Before we jump into their roles at MPT, let's first take a tour. Enjoy this pre-recorded video of our station located in Owings Mills, Maryland.
Welcome to our virtual tour of Maryland Public Television, also known as MPT. We are proud to be one of the 350 PBS member stations and the only free statewide broadcaster in Maryland. MPT first hit the airwaves on October 5th, 1969. And as you can see by the construction, part of our building is getting a much-needed facelift. But we'll get into that later. For now, let's get started. This is Master Control. It's the last stop in our building before programs run underground to our tower and out to your homes via radio frequency waves. This room must be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure we stay on air at all times. Master Control is also where our programs are preloaded to play at their specified airtime. While MPT is one station, we have 4 channels. Along the back wall in Master Control, you'll see 4 medium-sized screens showing MPT HD, MPT2 Create, PBS Kids, and NHK World. MPT is the only broadcaster in Maryland whose signal reaches the entire state for free. Along the back wall, you will also see 6 smaller screens. They show the feeds going out from each of our 6 towers. Towers are located in Annapolis, Frederick, Hagerstown, Oakland, Owings Mills, and Salisbury. Because of where our towers are located, we reach not only the entire state of Maryland, but also parts of Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia. Now you all know that Master Control is the last stop before programs leave our building. Let's go see the first stop, the studios. Welcome to Studio C, one of the 3 studios we have here at MPT. Prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, we filmed a few weekly programs here, including State Circle and Direct Connection, as well as Motor Week's podcast. The 3 cameras in this studio are robotic cameras and do not need a person behind each one to operate them. One person can operate all these cameras from a separate room in the building, which we'll see later. This studio is mostly used for interview-style shows because the robotic cameras do not respond to human movement as well as a person would. Just as everyone has had to adjust to working from home, our shows have too. Let's cut over to Jeff Salkin, host of State Circle and Direct Connection, so he can show us his home studio.
Hi, I'm Jeff Salkin. I've been asked to give you a tour of my home office studio. Let's take a look around. The most important thing is the camera, and our boss had the foresight to buy this model for us late last year before anybody really thought about pandemics. It has a ton of buttons on it. The most important one says auto, and that's how it's set. I leave the microphone clipped to the lens cover as a reminder when I sit down to put the microphone on. The camera connects over to this device, which is called a Comrex Live Shot. Camera input is there. Coming out of it is an Ethernet cable, which runs right down here in all the spaghetti to my router. About 6 megabits is all that's needed to send the picture. It's very fast. If anybody's into the technology, latency is 200 milliseconds, or about a fifth of a second, which is pretty good. In terms of the shot itself, I have my existing bookcase, and we added a step and repeat banner. This is just an old piece of plywood I had connected to the wall so it doesn't fall over, and the fabric is stapled to the plywood. Lighting is a combination of one professional light that I can move around and a couple of Home Depot clamp lights that stay where they are. The last interesting bit of technology costs $19. This is how I hear the station during a live show. It's just a burner phone that connects to my earpiece. And that has worked great, except for the one time somebody, probably me, forgot to load more minutes onto it. And it just conked out in the middle of a show. Hopefully we'll be back to the real studio very soon.
Thanks for the tour, Jeff. On to Studio B. This studio is most commonly recognized and referred to as the Pledge Studio because this is where we hold on-air fundraisers. Other programs filmed here include Artworks and Your Money in Business, as well as Maryland's National Geographic Spelling Bee. The background of this studio set can change easily. There are drapes that come down to cover the bookcases, and the lighting can be changed to make the same space look very different. It takes a lot of people to produce a show. For example, during a pledge drive, there is a volunteer behind every phone and laptop, at least 1 or 2 hosts on camera, a few development employees behind the scenes tracking info collected by the volunteers, a studio director, and 3 videographers, because the cameras in this studio are not robotic. And that's just the people in the studio. There are at least 5 to 10 more people in the control room, which we'll see soon. Before the control room, let's head to Studio A. Oops, Studio A is under construction. Here's a video of Studio A getting prepped for construction. Our production crew is taking down all the lights. The lights in our studios are much more powerful than your light at home. Home bulbs might be 60 watts, and these are anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 watts. When putting in these light bulbs, you can't touch them with your bare hands because once the lights are on, the oil left from your fingertips will heat up and cause the bulb to break. You can also see that this studio is the largest of the 3 MPT studios, and we're making it even bigger. Once completed, the new studio will feature stadium seating for outside audiences to come watch programs be recorded. Let's head to the control room next, where Isaiah will give us a tour.
Hi, I'm Isaiah Gibson, videographer and director here at NPT, and this is the George Benjamin Control Room. The control room is like the brains of a production, as it serves as the command center. On a normal day, you'd have about 4 to 6 people, all doing different tasks just as important as the last. Starting with our video feeds. Spread across 3 screens, you will see feeds coming from our tape room, prompter, program and preview, cameras, return from on-air, ME, and our remote cameras. Every person in here will be looking at these screens to do their jobs. Next, we have our computer graphics or CG station. The CG operator is responsible for all of our on-screen graphics, such as people's lower thirds, the membership phone number, full screen graphics, etc. They can also make quick adjustments on the fly, like so. Next, we have the switcher station, which is usually operated by our director, or in some cases, a director and a technical director. Sometimes we need both a director and a TD because sometimes the director needs to just focus on communicating instructions to the crew, such as the camera operators or the tape roll-ins. And the technical director can just sit here and focus on pushing the buttons, making sure transitions are smooth, and things of that sort. The switcher you see here with all the fancy lights is our new Grass Valley Carrera board. It has 192 inputs, 96 outputs, 4 mix effects buses, or ME stripes, and 6 downstream keyers for each stripe. Without getting too techy, this bad boy is the brains of the show, with each source coming into the switcher and the outward product being what you may see on air. And here's our lighting board. We control all of the lights for Studio B. As you can see, we have a few different preset configurations for all of our different shows, like this one. This is where we operate the teleprompter. The operator can load in the script, control the speed with this knob, and also make any revisions here should there be any typos. Right beside prompter is our producer station, where the producers will fill out the show and make sure everything is on track. Producers will also screen the phone calls, should we have any. And there you have it, our production control room.
Thanks, Isaiah. Now, let's go see how those robocams are operated.
All right, so we're going to try to get this camera to this spot, and it's pretty easy. So let's refer to this monitor, and I'm going to go to camera 3. Camera 3 is usually our guest angle, so we can handle 1 or 2 guests or an over-the-shoulder shot. You can do many more by programming the system, but that's a little more advanced. For now, I'm going to send camera 3 home. Okay, I'm going to click home. When I look down here, I have camera 3 up, so I'll press fade. You can see this counting down. And if I go back to the screen, you can see camera 3 going home. It's where we park the cameras when we're done with the show. And that's it.
From there, we'll visit Mike in the tape room.
Hello there. From Maryland Public Television, I'm Mike Woodard Jr. I'm a production editor here at MPT. I'm rocking my face mask today so I can bring you a look at what goes on behind the scenes here at the station to bring you dedicated public programming. Today, we're going to take a look at the tape room and the video on demand area. Let's check it out. Here is the tape room. So if you've ever seen State Circle or Direct Connection or any of our news shows, they are most likely being run out of this room. These are the tape decks. We call them tape decks, but they actually use what's called XD cams or XD discs. And I have one right here. These are basically Blu-rays that are protected by this nice shield. These are great for both storing video for long-term purpose or playing back video during a program. So how that works is when we do a show like Direct Connection, for example, I'll be sitting back here during the show, and I'm in communication with the director of the show via our system here. And as the show is ready to start, he'll give me a countdown. So I'll hear him over the radio go, all right, play back tape A in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, roll A. And I hit the button, and there we have the Direct Connection animation as you would see it appear on the show. We also have the more vintage tape decks. And I say vintage because they use what are basically VHS tapes. They're called HD cams, and they're basically high quality VHS tapes. And we use these as a way to consolidate videos onto just 1 or 2 playbacks. There are some shows like State Circle where we might have different pieces of video from here, and they all have their own individual disc. So we can't always play all those discs back all at once, or it's just too complicated. So we'll take these discs, we'll put them in the decks, and then we'll bump up those videos to a tape. So therefore, we're consolidating all those individual discs onto one tape, and that makes playback far easier for the news programs. And finally, the last purpose that this room serves is a way to take video from the physical formats and make them digital. So how that happens is we'll take one of the XD discs or the HD cams, put them in here, we'll send the feed over to our video on demand area, we'll hit play, and then we'll take that feed over there and we'll make it a digital file. And that video feed is sent here to the video on demand area. We have our computer set up, and basically the disc plays in real time in the tape room, and as it plays, we record it here into the computer via Digital Rapids or SelenioFlex, and that creates a digital file, and then we send that file out to our Cove player and to Comcast. So that's it. That's our tour of both the tape room and the video on demand area. Hope you learned something and had some fun. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Mike. Let's go out back and see the tower. This tower is 1,013 feet tall. There are quite a few anchors attached to keep it from falling one way or the other. However, on a windy day, you can still see it moving in the wind. The large satellite dishes around the base of the tower allow us to send and receive programs by bouncing radio signals off satellites in space. From the tower, let's head back inside and take a look at our education hallway. This hallway is always a fun spot to look at. Featuring MPT and PBS Kids programming through the years, it's a great reminder of the value of public television. From education, we'll head back to the front. And that concludes our tour. Thank you all for coming along.
Wow. I really hope everyone enjoyed our tour and even learned a little bit something about our MPT station. Before introducing our panelists, I'd like to take a minute to mention the Maryland STEM Festival, a festival that runs annually throughout the month of October into November. Maryland STEM Fest was established to encourage all students, regardless of background experience, to take a greater interest in STEM, with all the hope that they will pursue a STEM-related education-focused career. MPT thanks them for their support. All right, you know what time it is. It's time to introduce to our panel. For those of you watching live, make sure you're signed into your Facebook or your YouTube account so you can post questions for the panelists in the discussion. First up, I would like to welcome a very warm welcome to Amy Oden. Hello, Amy Beautiful. Amy, could you please introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about you?
So I've been working at MPT for going on 5 years. My name is Amy. I am a producer in digital studios, which is basically web produced video, social media produced video. Sometimes we use still images, do lots of content for online. And even though we just got a tour of all of the studio facilities, I tend to work mostly in the field. So I'm the guy out in the field with the backpack full of the camera gear. So it's interesting, and I get to go to a lot of different places.
That's super awesome. Hey, guys and gals, grab those cameras. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go on so we can keep on introducing everyone. Let's introduce Noelle. Noelle is so happy to have you here with us today. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and say hi to everyone?
Hi, everybody. My name is Noelle Webster. I'm a lead digital video specialist at MPT. I've been there for 4 years. I went to the Lincoln University for communications. What I do is a little bit of everything. I do closed captioning. You saw the robotic cameras earlier. I help to run those as well as the studio cameras, and I do what we call video, which is live on air, or if we're doing a studio production, I will be color correcting and controlling the light of the camera through the aperture.
That is super awesome. absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Noelle. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Tracy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank
I'm Tracy Gaspari, and I've been there 23 years. I'm the studio supervisor and the lighting director there. And being the studio supervisor of those 3 studios that you saw means that I work with my boss, the managing director, to help facilitate all the activities that go there to make sure that they run smoothly, which kind of, I guess you could see all the stuff that was in there. Lots of different departments have to utilize that studio. So it's a lot of juggling, a lot of balls in the air. So just sort of making sure that everybody gets what they need and the place is safe. And then being the lighting director just means designing crazy things, fun things, and implementing that, and then maintaining it, and then making sure nothing falls on anyone's head. So that's the fun part.
Excellent. That sounds so exciting, ladies. I definitely must say before we go any further, I really miss being in the studio, seeing all of you do your thing and asking random questions like, what is that? And what does that do? Thank you so much. So to get us started, I'm really curious. How did you all become interested in your field? And let's start from the top. Amy, let's start with you. Hang on one moment, Amy. I can't quite hear you.
I'm not muted anymore, right? I feel like everyone knows the phrase late bloomer. I feel like I was kind of an early bloomer. I started to get interested in media in like high school. So I feel like everyone also always has like that, like one teacher that was really their champion. And I had a media literacy teacher, and I started to like get to understand the way that like mass media worked. And for me, it just meant like that I really was like driven to pick up a camera. So that was like the beginning of the whole thing for me.
That's awesome. You know, some people just know what they want to do off the back and they run with it. I love that. So, Noelle, what about you? How did you become interested in your field? Oh, Noelle, I think you muted. Sorry.
There we go. I was actually interested in radio first, and that's what I went to college for communications, but it was broadcast, so it was radio and television. So we had a TV 101 class, and I picked up the camera, and I was like, oh, yes, I need to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I feel it. So after that, I was like, TV all the way. Radio was left behind.
I absolutely love it. Noelle said, yeah, I had to leave radio in the dust. It had to go. Vroom, vroom. I love it. So, Tracy, I'm really interested to know, how do you become interested in your field?
Well, I didn't actually know. And when I went to college for communications, and I looked back after joining communicate, actually I got a Bachelor of Science instead of a Bachelor of Arts in television, film, and theater. And now that I'm here, I would say to my family, I don't know how I ended up here. And they laugh at me because my mother said, you took apart every electronic device in our house. Every time we bought a stereo, you wired it up at 12 years old. So apparently, growing up, I was a tinkerer and I liked things and I was curious. So I wish I had a better answer, but I apparently just always liked electronics, and I was always the person taking pictures. In high school, I was in the darkroom for 4 years. So sometimes it's just in you.
That is super inspiring. You took something that, was always in you. Sometimes you just don't know. It's always there.
Yeah, you just got to follow it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super awesome. So just to dig a little deeper, do you feel that, and you ladies can answer this in your own order, do you feel that your the upbringing that you experience, your experience socially, helped to feel or form how you chose your career today? I'm not going to just read a little bottom part. I just kind of paraphrase that. Did your background or upbringing influence your career path? Were there cultural influences that swayed you one way or another?
I have like a funny answer to that one, I feel like. So like my parents are both I feel like very like independent thinkers. And so for me, like, I think the idea of working for PBS was like, I was like raised on PBS, you know? So I think I definitely was like driven in that direction at an early age. And my dad is also a science person. So I think he taught me from being a like really little kid that like math and science was not intimidating. Like it didn't need to be a scary thing that I didn't think I could do. And he was a math professor when I was a kid. So that was like definitely, I think, part of it for me. Yeah.
That's super awesome. I mean, I work at a TV station, and so does my dad, so I can definitely relate to you there. Tracy, Noelle, what about you guys? Oop, I think you muted, Tracy. Hold on one second. Okay.
I think for me, just coming from a, you know, as far as being deterred as a girl from this type of thing, I came from the inner city of Baltimore. My parents were extremely poor. So my mom raised me with a mindset of whatever it is that you want to do, you can do that. So I kind of was raised in a household of, if that's what you want to do, you better pursue it as hard as you possibly can. So I never had the thought in my head that I couldn't do it because I was a girl. So I never, I guess I just never went out into the world with the thought that I was entering a male dominated field and I couldn't do it. It never, that doesn't mean I didn't have any obstacles, but I went out there with the thought of, I don't see why I can't, because my mother told me that I could. So I came from it from a totally different perspective, I think.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I'm going to touch on that in one moment. Noelle, let's talk about it.
So for me, my father had a job where he was in the spotlight a lot and absolutely despised it. You know, like if we went somewhere, it would take us an hour to get away because he's talking to so many people. So I knew for sure that I wanted to have a job where I was kind of in the background or behind the scenes type of thing. And this fits perfectly with that. Like I definitely don't like being on camera per se, but I love being behind it.
That's awesome. I didn't expect that, you know, like you wouldn't be able to stand it. My dad is like a chatterbox, and I used to like, oh, people know my dad, he's so popular. But I can see how that would kind of give you a different angle there. That's so awesome. All right, so let's keep it going. Let's keep it going because you know, you guys know me, I can be a little dramatic. So let's talk about this. What obstacles or challenges have you faced along the way? And were any of them attributed to being a woman in a male-dominated field? And, you know, whichever one, jump in there, switch it
I
around.
would say when I came out of college, 2 years before that was the economic downturn in 2008. So it was pretty hard to find a job in general. So I just had to hit the pavement. I had a couple part-time jobs trying to work into the field. Actually, didn't leave radio behind because I found a part-time job in radio for a little bit until I could find what I wanted. And for me, just keep, you know, so let me start out. I was born and raised in Hagerstown, and I found a small production company there where where I interned, and then I found a job there. But due to my mother's falling ill, I had to leave that place, and I came into Baltimore. Now, as people on TV know, Baltimore is like one of the markets it's not a small market. So trying to find a job, full-time job, just coming out with like your 1 year of experience and then a couple part-time jobs is pretty hard. So I had to be flexible. And once I was able to get in, you know, I had to keep going, be persistent in that. So that was just being able to find a full-time job was a pretty big obstacle for me. And then also I would say sometimes when you come in to a place in general and you're young and you have all this energy and you're just like, yeah, let's do this, I'm ready. Sometimes you're met with a little bit of resistance, because, you know, sometimes people have been in a place for a while and they're basically, things are ran the way they are ran. And sometimes, you know, they might not have that idea, or sometimes they might not see what you see. That's not a bad thing. You just have to let them know and open up their eyes. So those are a few obstacles that are challenges that I've faced.
Awesome. Would either Tracy or Amy, would you guys want to chime in on that as well?
For me, I've been an MPT a very, very long time. So I've had a lot of experience dealing with a lot of different people, guests, clients, vendors. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that you never know what's in the other person's head. You never know. So you can have an experience and you don't know why. So I could give you an example. My very first day at work there, my job wasn't always lighting director and supervisor. I started out as a grip, and all of those lights that you saw in the studio are very heavy. They weigh anywhere from 25 to 60 pounds. And I'm kind of a very small statured person, and I'm female. And they're all male crew, all male supervisors. And one of the guys on the crew was kind of poking me and told the supervisor, give her that one. And he pointed to the heaviest light in the studio. So I went up and I did it. And when I came down, the supervisor said to him, I'm not going to mention his name, but he pointed to him and he said, you can't even lift that one. So that experience, did he do that to me because I was a woman? Did he do it to me because it was my first day? Did he do it to me because I was small? I'll never know, because I'm not in his head. But what I took away from that was, it doesn't matter why he did it. I have a job to do, and I'm going to do it. So I can look at that as an obstacle and feel like I'm being attacked, or I can just do my job. So now there does come a point that I think is a valuable thing to say, is that there are some things that people do to us as, you know, a protected class that are illegal, and you should take action. So, but there are some things where you have to say, sometimes it's perception. And I've had lots of things happen, you know, where I don't know what's in their head, but you have to do your job. And at the end of the day, what should be in your head is, I'm invincible.
I absolutely love that. You know, we are unstoppable. Only thing that separates us is what we want to do, and are we going to do it? You know. All right, Amy, drum roll. How do you feel?
Yeah, right. I feel like, you know, it's like a team sport a lot of the time, production, you know, and so in addition to like working with clients, you wind up with like a really interesting group of people with personality dynamics, usually like in production. And so there's a lot of like, I always think about like the amount of like weird, unpaid, like emotional labor that goes into like navigating people and their different personalities. And you get better at it as you get older. And I think maybe it's something that like women are more socialized to be sensitive to, or to be, you know, agile with. But I definitely feel like that's something that is kind of consistently like at least an interesting challenge for me. I will say, like, on the back of what the anecdote that Tracy mentioned about having a light, like I had an engineer, like a senior male engineer at my very first job out of college, that insisted that the tripod plates should be stored with the cameras. And I like went toe to toe with him about it and was very insistent that they needed to be stored with the tripods. And it's just such a small thing. But like at the end of that argument, which I feel like lasted weeks, but who knows what my like concept of time was, right? Like I came out on top of that and like felt, you know, validated, and like that I knew what I was talking about, and that he knew that I knew what I was talking about. And I feel like I have had many moments in my career where there have been like, you see people kind of go, oh, okay, well, I guess she knows what she's talking about. And that, like, if you can strive in that direction, that winds up obviously feeling pretty good.
I love it. I love it. You ladies are giving us amazing takeaways. I'm going to come right back to you, Tracy. We have members who, or viewers, excuse me, I'm so used to being at work saying members, viewers who have some questions for you dynamic ladies. So we have Erin who posted, what are some ways that young women can start exploring media tech like lighting, videography, directing, editing before going to college, like in grade school or middle school?
I have a good one for that, especially in Baltimore. There's wide angle youth media, and there's lots of different, like in your, wherever you live, there's always going to be some kind of access to a youth media org. And I definitely benefited a lot from having access to that stuff in my high school. And I know that that's become more widespread now. So yeah, there's a lot of nonprofits now, which is awesome.
Awesome. Tracy or Noelle, do you guys know of any particular programs that may have, you may have heard of or may have helped facilitate where you are today? Anything of that nature? Oh, I think you're muted, Tracy.
I would just tell them to find out what they like and get together as groups with one another, because peer-to-peer and the encouragement and sharing of ideas peer-to-peer, they don't necessarily have to join a group, but joining a group is great. And right now it's kind of hard with, the pandemic but to actually communicate with one another and bounce ideas off of one another. That's one of the things I miss about being in college or being in high school, was hearing someone else say, wouldn't it be fun to do this? Or look what this thing does, or let's take this apart, but don't keep it to yourself, even if you think it's wacky, to share your idea with someone else, because then that octopuses off into other things. Even if you think, that's how inventions are made. It really is. So I would just say, I think a lot of times as women, we're stifled because we're afraid if we say something, it's going to appear as being stupid. And I think we should share it. Just let it out.
Definitely. Absolutely. Noelle?
I would say for all of you who have access to the internet, and I'm guessing you do if you're watching this, YouTube University is what I call it. There are plenty of vloggers or people just on there explaining how to use the different softwares. There are a lot of free softwares out there, like for audio, for example, there's Audacity, GarageBand, and iMovie if you have an iPhone. So there are definitely ways for you to just play around with editing systems and just the software that basically have all the basics that you'll need to know about all of these different things.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for your valuable input and information on that. I'm sure that we have viewers who are hitting those keys on that keyboard as we speak. I have a question from Jesse, one of our viewers. What was the most interesting project that you worked on? And Tracy, we'll start with you.
Oh boy. I actually do know. It was one of the very first projects that I went. It was actually an on-location project, which is why I work for Maryland Public Television. I went out with a shooter on a location thing. He needed some extra help, and we interviewed Dr. Gallo, who was the lead researcher for AIDS research. So if any of you have seen the HBO movie about, what is that movie about with Tom Hanks about AIDS research? Philadelphia. Yes, Philadelphia. We interviewed him at University of Maryland, and when the cameras stopped rolling, my shooter and I, Terry Williams, got to sit and talk to him for 2 hours about where AIDS research was going, and that was 20 years ago. And to be able to talk to him then when all of that was new, and all the things that he told me actually came true. He said that there would be a day when people would be walking around living with AIDS. And to have that access was insane. It was mind-blowing for a young person in their 20s to be able to talk to and to sit in the same room with Dr. Gallo. It was crazy. And that's why I work at MPT, because as one shooter who I also worked with said, I'm here because I don't want to do the news where we just shoot the blood on the sidewalk after a murder. We do things of value. And I knew that day that I was where I belonged.
I just love those types of insights that life gives you before you even know what, you know, what journey or path you're on. That's awesome, Tracy. So Amy, let's talk about it. What was your most interesting project that you've worked on?
I feel like my stock answer is always like, the last project I just finished shooting was the most interesting, because it's like, that's the thing that you're like obsessed with that at that period, you know? I feel like, yeah, also similar to Tracy's answer, I've definitely had like a lot of really amazing opportunities to meet people that I thought were interesting going into the interview, you know? Like, it's been wild to meet people at NASA. It's been wild to meet, like I got to meet Kathleen Hanna and interview her like for a personal project years ago, like just like musicians, people who are like in politics, like had the privilege of interviewing Brandon Scott several years ago when he was on the public safety committee, you know, in the city council. And that was really exciting then. And to see him like moving forward in his political career has been really cool. But yeah, I feel like, you know, the stock version of the answer is like, oh, well, the shoot that I wrapped on like the day before yesterday when I was in, you know, St. Mary's County filming archaeologists. I think like working at MPT definitely has given me the ability to do stories in a way that, right, like it's not just like running in and running out for me. Like I do like to and have had the privilege of developing relationships with people that I film, and they're very like specific and intimate feeling relationships. And when you go back again and again to the same folks, and like, you know, even the archaeologists that I was shooting with the other day, it's like this is the 4th or 5th shoot I've been on with them. You develop a relationship, and that's like one of the most rewarding parts of the job for me. That's interesting forever.
I will go ahead and answer the question. For me, I worked with this, so it was like one side of it was a nonprofit and the other side is for profit, but they're two different entities. So Good News Baltimore is like the nonprofit part of 6 Point Productions. And what Jamar does, he's basically the person who started Good News Baltimore. He is amazing because he seeks out BIPOC filmmakers or people interested in filmmakers. And even if you don't really know anything, if you're willing to learn, he seeks out people such as that. And I was able to fall into Good News Baltimore and work with him. And we shot one time it was like, it was all night and we went to this next day, but we were just shooting music scenes for the season. And it was just like a bunch of people from DC, local musicians. I can't remember all the names. There was so many good people, and being able to, he's like, have you had camera experience? What's your camera experience? Here, I'm going to put you on this dolly. Boom, I'm on the dolly. Like, he's like, what's your lighting experience? And he'll break it down to you. I've been on shoots where they've had some award-winning shots. I can't remember. Me remembering names of projects sometimes is over my head. But the project was basically about a Muslim woman who, during this, it's kind of similar to now, during this time where so much is coming up and out into the press about Black women and Muslim women and just people of color in general, how she was basically taking it. And it was basically Blackbird was singing, it started with that, and She was in a park and she was just basically praying and the water washes over her. But just to be a part of that filmmaking experience, and it actually won a few awards. It was just really good, just to have people around me that look like me and are interested in this and do this is very important. And you don't get to see that a lot. So that's probably one of the greatest things that I've worked on, just because of that.
That is completely awesome, ladies. I absolutely love it. I'm sorry I did cut out there. I have no technical ability really, and everything just went black. But I did it. So my next question, ladies, and I think that in our careers today, we all can kind of relate to this question because I often ponder on it myself. If you could go back and tell your younger self anything, what would it be? And Amy, let's start with you.
I think to just be like tenacious, to just keep going. I feel like definitely similar to what Noelle was saying about, the 2008 recession was like tough on all of us. And there have definitely been moments like coming out of that and then just, in life where like things throw you a curveball. And I think it's like hard sometimes to kind of check in with yourself in those moments and wonder if you're doing the right thing or if you're being too stubborn or if you should try a different option or something like that. And I think I've been able to stay the course thus far pretty well, and I feel good about having done that. And so I think I would probably just say to a younger version of myself to keep that faith that this is like the right direction to move in and to keep going.
That was awesome. That resonated with me. I was like, let's get that. I need that myself.
Right.
I definitely have to tag on upon what Amy said about that feeling of second guessing yourself. My younger self doubted myself a lot, even though I would put on this exterior mask of confidence. Inside, I was always wondering if I was good enough, smart enough, and I don't know where that came from. I don't know. And because it didn't come from my family, it didn't come from anywhere that I can point a finger on, but there was always this level of self-doubt of, am I doing the best that I could possibly do? And on one level, it pushes you to work harder, but I think you have to walk a very fine line to be careful that you don't beat yourself up too much. And I think I spent in my younger years a lot of time. And I think I would go back and tell that young lady, go just a little bit easier on yourself. So as I've gotten older, I've learned to think of myself as a glass with some water in it and a hole in the bottom, and let some dribble out so that you don't get too full of yourself, so that some young person can come along and pour some good stuff in the top. And that's kind of how I think of things now.
Tracy, that was beautiful. Please write that. We need to submit that to a card company. We need to talk about. We'll talk about that. That was absolutely phenomenal. I think that's so important. Be gentle with yourself because you're only you.
Yeah.
All right,
I'd rather
Noelle.
use kinder words.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So Noelle, talk about it.
They said it perfectly, like confidence. I definitely struggled with confidence. And I think it was like maybe 2 months ago. For some reason, I was just looking back at my life, not like I'm that old, but I was just like, why did you do that? Like, for some reason, I doubted myself, just like Tracy said. And like, I talked myself out of a lot of opportunities that came my way. And, we shouldn't do that. I think sometimes as women, we talk to ourselves in a certain way and it's like, oh no, maybe I'm not qualified for that, or maybe I can't do this. And sometimes men jump right on it. They'll have half the qualifications and they're like, I'm going for it. So I say we should keep the energy, like that energy. We're going for it. We need to do this. And don't doubt yourself, don't downplay your abilities. Be confident.
I love that. I can't wait to go rewatch this again with my notepad because all of this is just gems, just throwing gems out here. I love it. So can you guys believe we've been chatting for 50 minutes, over 50 minutes? It seems like it was 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. But as we kind of reel ourselves back in, let's start like this. If there's one piece of advice that you could give young people interested in STEM, young girls interested in STEM, what would that be? And Tracy, let's start with you. Hang on 1 second, Tracy. I'm sorry, you're muted. Give me one moment. All right.
I would say find what interests you, whatever that is. Because I hated math. No one was going to make me do math. That was not going to happen. So whatever it is, whether it be math, whether it be science, whether it be electronics, engineering, whether it be this particular field, which is, television and communications, find it in yourself. Be that person, well, that doesn't take the VCR apart because we don't have those anymore, but find what it is, that passion, and do it. Go for it. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And don't let anything stop you. Just don't. And if you hit the obstacle, work it out and keep going. And that's it.
I love it. I love it. Amy, come on, drop the mic. What's your best piece of advice to give everybody?
I mean, I think like two things, right? Like, I think nothing is so hard that you can't do it. I think for me, like, coming to that realization that like really being like a DIY person, in my like teens and 20s, it's like nothing is so hard that you can't make that thing. So get that idea out of your head. And then the other thing is like, if you want to be somewhere and if you have an idea about a thing that you want to do, or if you have like a vision, you belong there, And if you have days where you don't really feel like that's true, then just move through that day and like fake it till you make it, Like, I feel like we all still have days where you're like, oh God, I don't know about it today. And like, if you can just kind of push through the rough spots, then it's like, you're going to look back and be really excited about the places that you've been able to go.
Awesome. Absolutely phenomenal.
I just like Dr. Seuss that answer.
I love it, because all of my emails probably have Dr. Seuss quotes. So he stays with me. Noelle, what's that one piece of advice? What's that gem?
I would say find yourself an advocate. Might take a little bit of time. Just be observant, and once you find that advocate for yourself, hold fast. There's been many times where, for me, I've been lucky where it might be like my supervisor or my boss. Before here, I was at a community college, and my supervisor, she was also a woman, and she was an advocate for me. She's like, I see you're doing good. I love the energy you're bringing. I'm going to ask for a raise. I'm going to ask for this. I know you can do this. She was always in my ear speaking positivity. So find yourself that advocate, that somebody who will always uplift you.
I absolutely love it. I love it. I don't know about everybody else watching, but I took amazing amounts of advice today from you ladies. From speak gentle to yourself. You can do it. You're unstoppable. Find an advocate. That's one I've never heard before, and it's so powerful. Find an advocate. Find someone who you can ask those questions to. And if they don't know the answer, you all can research and dig in that together. Absolutely love it. Noelle, Amy, Tracy, thank you so much for sitting with us today and chit-chatting and things of that nature. As we wrap up, I wanted to just say a little bit about our book, Darling Lab Girl. I will be reading, this is my evening read now. I'm very excited. I also got my bachelor's degree in communications, radio and telecommunications, audio production. It's not what I'm doing now, but I do also would love to encourage you girls. You can do it. You children, you young people, youthfulness, you can do it. Only thing that's in your way is that voice in our head telling us that we can't. So if you are interested in getting your own copy of Lab Girl, please go to the link on your screen or in the chat and complete the form to receive your copy. While we would love to give everyone a book, we have a limited number available. So we ask that you only do one per household. Sharing is caring. Please also know that this book is not suggested for readers below the 11th grade. However, if you think outside that, reach out to a parent, reach out to an adult, and ask for that. Be sure to check out our website for future NEA Big Read lead events. You also can subscribe for emails regarding upcoming events. Lastly, you can reach out to us at Maryland Public Television at outreach@mpt.org, and we'll put that up there. Oh, there it is right there for you. I feel so remiss saying see you later, you guys, but I just want to thank Amy, Tracy, and Noelle again, and thank every one of our viewers today, all of our wonderful MPT staff, our amazing author. We're just excited. We hope to see you guys in our email. We hope to see you guys in our chats, sharing your Facebook pages. This video more than likely will be up to share later on Facebook and things like that. And I don't want to say goodbye. It's always so remiss, but we have 3 more minutes. So does anybody have any last word that they thought about, anything that they wanted to share before we just kind of say goodbye? We got 3 minutes. Just one adjective. Mine is going to be unstoppable. I don't know if that's adjective, but mine is going to be unstoppable. Okay, one more time. Invincible. What about you, Amy?
Confident.
Bring us in, Noelle.
Okay.
Persistent.
Unstoppable. Tracy?
Invincible.
Amy?
Confident.
Noelle?
Persistent.
That's what I'm talking about. Wonderful. We thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon. And thank you from MPT. And you guys have an amazing afternoon. And go read your Lab Girl. And don't forget to get in our inbox and get your copy of that book, you guys. Thank you so much.